I'm Rick Kwan, and this is a mentoring moment. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I think that that proverb is particularly representative of the point of view that Christian Layman Church has in terms of their mentoring ministry. The objective is that we want to help brothers and sisters really deepen and strengthen their relationship with Christ and to do it together. And we think that mentoring is one way of doing that. But you might have the question, Rick, what qualifies me to be a mentor? Or am I qualified to be a mentor? I think that that question can be answered with one question, and that is, can I come beside someone and share my life? And that's really what mentoring is about. It's about coming beside someone. It's not leading someone from the front. It's not pushing someone from behind. It's actually coming beside someone and sharing your life. And so you might ask yourself the question, well, what does that mean, sharing my life or coming beside someone? I thought about three ways that maybe you could share your life when you mentor someone. And those three ways would be, one, sharing trials and tribulations, two, sharing life lessons, and three, sharing God sightings. So and I know that if you think about those three things, I know when I think about my life, trials and tribulations, life lessons, and God sightings, I know that the benefit that I've received is looking at trials and tribulations and looking back at them. I realize how faithful God is. Two, when I look at life lessons, I'm reminded that God is very active in my life, and He's constantly teaching me about His wisdom and lessons that He wants me to learn. And three, God sightings, that reminds me of one, looking and asking for God sightings, but two, also having patience with God and waiting in anticipation for a God sighting. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about those three aspects that you as a mentor might be able to share your life when you come beside someone. Trials and tribulations. I know in James 1, 2 through 5, it says that we should rejoice in our trials and tribulations because through our trials and tribulations we'll develop perseverance, and then we'll develop maturity, and from maturity we'll develop wisdom. And so when I meet with someone, what I often will do is I'll think about, all right, the person I'm meeting with, at what stage are they in their life? Are they a young college student? Are they someone that's in the dating stage, new in a relationship? Are they someone who might be new to parenthood or someone that might be new to marriage? And then I might ask, what kinds of trials and tribulations might they be having, or what kinds of questions may they be having? Some of the questions that we might have a discussion on when I meet with someone, and we'll share, would be, what kind of, if I'm meeting with a college student, what kinds of things are they looking at studying? What kinds of things might they hope to do in a career? If they're looking at things in terms of a career change, what kinds of new skills will this lead to? If they're looking at financial decisions, how are they going to, what kinds of decisions do they need to make in terms of prioritizing how they might want to do their finances? And, I might share with them what some of the trials and tribulations and hard decisions that I had to make during those times. So when I share about my life, I think about where that person might be in life and what kinds of decisions they might be having and what kinds of trials and tribulations they might have. And then I'll share what I was going through during that time. Okay, the second thing we talked about is life lessons. And life lessons are things that, upon reflection, after maybe you've gone through a trial and tribulation, you've got some key learnings. And what could some of those life lessons be? that you might want to share. I know one might be is what's a life lesson I learned about patience in marriage, and how I've had to learn patience. Another might be is what is a key lesson that I've learned about parenthood, about trying to be proactive as a parent as opposed to being reactive. What are some lessons that I might have learned about faithfulness when I went through periods of unemployment? What are some fears that I might have had when I was thinking about going through a job change or a career change? All of those things are important. And you bring in terms of a life lesson, your perspective. But here's the key thing about a life lesson. You don't have to feel that you made the right decision to come up with the key right lesson. Sometimes the best lessons in life are learned through failure. And I can tell you I've had plenty of failures. So that must mean that I have a lot of life lessons to share. And that's really where I find the richest points for me, is being able to share out of my moments of weakness and being able to share the life lessons I've learned through my failure. That also kind of puts in perspective why God has sometimes given me challenges to struggle with, so that I've learned what some of these life lessons are, so that I can also share those with other people. Okay, so what's a third area that qualifies you to be a mentor? And that would be an area where you could share about what your God sightings are. Now, when I think of God sightings, don't get all intimidated about it. I find that God shows up best in my life, not one of those lightning bolt moments from the hilltop where he says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." I'd love it if I had those moments. I don't find God sightings so much in those moments. Rather, I find God sightings in the day-to-day happenings in life. And I remember one of the God sightings that I had, it was in the early 2000s. And I was in a contract job because I got laid off. And it was a temporary position. And I was very worried about my finances and whether I'd be able to provide or not. And I remember I was walking to the ATM machine. And I was going to take out a withdrawal. And I remember praying, Lord, I'm really kind of concerned and scared about that I'm not going to have enough to provide. I really pray that you could send me a God sighting to calm me down and know that things are going to be okay. So I'm walking to the ATM, and I go to the ATM machine, and I go take my usual $40 out. And on that particular time, I punch in, take $40 out, $60 comes out. An extra $20 comes out. I went, wow, Lord, that was a quick answer to prayer. And I've used an ATM machine hundreds of times since then and hundreds of times before. And I can tell you, ever since then, I have never received extra money before, and I have never received extra money afterwards. The only time I received that extra 20 was when I asked God, could you give me a God sighting that things are going to be okay? So that's one of the key things, is being able to share key moments in your life where God has shown up. Here's another thing about God sightings, is that when you meet with someone and you listen to their stories, and sometimes their trials and tribulations or their life stories, you often have a different perspective, and you can see where God has shown up in their life or where God has shown up in another person's life. And you might be able to encourage that person or encourage them by sharing what you see as a God sighting in their life or in someone else's life or in your life. So we talked about, are you qualified to be a mentor? And if you can come beside someone and if you can share your life with someone, we talked about how you could share your life in three ways: through trials and tribulations, through life lessons, or through God sightings, then you can be a mentor. If you're ready to take that next step and to be a mentor, then contact Pastor Andrew or someone on the mentoring ministry and consider asking for them to broker a meeting with someone where you might be able to start off with a cup of coffee or perhaps lunch and start that mentoring relationship. I know that you'll find mentoring to be a rich experience. And I know that when we started this discussion, we talked about that African proverb that said, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. My wish for you is that your journey through mentoring would not only take you far in your walk with God, but that it would also be a deep walk and one that is deeper with God. I'm Rick Kwan, and this is a mentoring moment. Thank you.